Alright, so I'm going to be going over the current status of the fans in my grandparents' house here in the Dominican Republic. And as always, I'm going to be starting off with the two fans in my bedroom. This one's really, nothing's changed. Same as usual. Control sometimes responds. It's been like that for over a decade. I'm thinking it's a loose connection, but I'm only here occasional, like a few times a year. So this fan really doesn't get that much use. But when I'm here, I do use it, so yeah. And since I've been keeping the windows here completely sealed when I'm not here, the fan hasn't really been rusting much. As the other ones, it's a different story, but this one, thankfully, it's still about the same as last time. I mean, that is mostly dirt at the edges, but you kind of see it forming a little bit, but it's not really expanding unlike the other ones. But yeah, the fan itself still runs well. And it's actually started to develop some sort of a harmonics, kind of like the other one in my grandmother's room does, but not to the same extent, but it's starting to develop one. You kind of hear it, but then it stops after that. I'd show it more of it later on without the air conditioner running, but as for this fella here, it gets used a bit, but yeah, it hasn't been getting used that much either, because it only gets used when I'm here. But this one I have been thinking of swapping possibly, but I think out of all the fans I'm thinking of swapping, this will probably be the last one because it never gets used, so it's the safest of getting worn out out of the four of them. I'm thinking of swapping. If I do swap it, it'd probably be a KDK M56 LG either in white or black. I've been thinking more about doing a black one. The only reason why I've been kind of against doing a black one is that it would not match this, but I feel like I'd be able to get over it. But I don't know, I think I might stick with the white for this room whenever I get my own apartment. Then I put a black one in my room and such. Once I get my own apartment down here for when I visit, but we'll see. But as for now, this one still runs well, holds up well, doesn't get used that much like the other one, so I'm not worried about this one getting more worn out. So for right now, it's staying, but the other ones, it's a different story. But the bearings are holding up well on it. It has a good spin down still. But yeah, and that's really all there is to say with these two. And let me go ahead and move on to the next ones. All right, now for the fans in my grandmother's bedroom, they're both working fine, especially this one since the bearings were replaced last time. And in terms of starting on speed 1, the bearings have broken in a lot more, so it starts off more freely compared to last time, since the bearings had just been replaced when I was last here. But yeah, the reason why they're both filthy is because these both get used quite a bit, basically every day. That one gets used at night more so, and this one gets used more so in the daytime. Well, the problem is this one's a bit in an awkward space because we have this bed here for my grandmother. So it's kind of in an awkward space for them to remove it, to take it apart to get cleaned. And this one, they can't reach, they'd have to stand on something secure to clean it. And we don't have a ladder here. Usually when I clean it, I either stand on the corner of the bed or stand on a chair. But most of the plastic chairs we have are in rough shape from the sun damage and stuff that outside. And the wooden chairs we don't trust, those aren't in the best shape either. So that's why sometimes when we arrive here, they they are pretty dirty. The ones that get used quite a bit, that is. The one in my bedroom and the living room ones don't really get used that much. The bathroom one does get used a bit just because I switched it to be on all the time when I'm not, when the light turns on. So just because I took off the extensions. But yeah, as you can see, it's taking its sweet time stopping. But I'll show that its own separate video while I'm here. But yeah, as you can see, it's definitely quite filthy. It's been worse though in terms of the dust buildup. I mean, from February to now, June. I mean, it's late June right now. I'm down here, June 30th to be exact. But by the time you guys see this video, it'll be a little bit later. So within that time span, it's gonna be dirty. My mom's probably cleaned it since, because she had came down here since then, back in like April. But yeah, they're both working fine, which I'm happy about. And yeah, that's it with this one. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, now as for the ceiling fan in the bathroom, not much has to be changed with it. Fan, honestly, with nothing to be changed with it, it still has the back capacitor. Some of the screws will start to get more rusted over time. But surprisingly, it's actually not as bad as I expected it to be. So it's been here for about 5.5 years now, almost. Next year will be 6 years and such. So it could definitely be a lot worse, but yeah. And it is dirtier compared to when I was last here, but that is mostly because I made it so that the fan only runs on high and such. So basically the fan turns on with the light. You can't really choose to turn it off anymore because I took the extensions away. Because for me, it was more so that I didn't want to leave the fan extension because I was afraid of somebody pulling it too hard and they pull the fan pull out and then it's stuck in the off position. So, and yeah, I could get a replacement pull chain and all that, but I'd rather not go through that. So I'd rather see it be an on-off option. Because some people down here are not used to using pull chains since they usually use KDKs with remote controls or wall controls and such. But yeah, it still doesn't do a good enough job to move a breeze in here, but it's definitely nowhere near as powerful as it used to be, sadly. But this is one that I'm not really worried about if it gets worn and all that, or if it gets damaged, if whenever it gets removed after we move out of this house, once my grandmother passes away, because it's something that I'm not too worried about. And if this one was to be removed, they would have to take it apart completely to remove it, unlike the other 4. So this one I'm not really that worried about. And such. And it's not an actual fan from my childhood, even though these are childhood fans for me. The other 4 are actual fans that were from my actual childhood. This is this one I got 5-6 years ago. I don't have really sentimental memories with this one and such. So yeah. So that's really all there is to say about this one, and let me go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, now with the KDK pedestal fan in my grandfather's room, it doesn't really get used that much anymore. Like, it's kind of been the same case, but it does get used occasionally. Sometimes in my grandmother's bedroom at night, because recently, as I mentioned, well, actually no, I didn't mention. I just found out after I did the clip for the ones in her room. The AC in her room stopped working, so it needs to get fixed. So they have been moving this over there to kind of have that extra support. So the ceiling fan has been getting used more in the daytime, and they've been using this along with the universal at night. I just brought it over here just to have it out of the way because they're using the room right now. But yeah, it's been getting used a bit. It still works fine. One thing I'm definitely thinking of trying to do possibly before I leave this trip is maybe get the grill on this repainted because it's starting to rust up a lot more now and such. And if not this time, then the next time I come here. But the blades aren't rusting, which is a good thing. It's just the grills, but that's normal. And it's going to just have metal stuff get rusted over time. But yeah, it still works well and everything. It was a little bit dusty when I got here, not too bad. It was mostly the grill that was dusty. The blades weren't really dusty, but it got cleaned before I could show it with the dust on it. But yeah, it's whatever. But, yeah, this is still the same. I am looking into trying to see if there's a way to put like the brass plating over it again that it had, but I don't know. Or maybe get a newer one to swap that one out with and just preserve that one so it doesn't get more worn out. Or find a used one maybe, I don't know. I know the black ones like this now, when they sell them, they don't use this anymore. They have the black one with the KDK logo on it. Basically the same that the white one that I have in my room uses. But the wall fans and the orbital ones, they still use this type, except it doesn't say, it just says KDK since 19, or no, I think it just says over the generation. It doesn't say the KDK since 1909 anymore. But and the brass on it's a lot more stronger than this one. It's like a lot more of gold compared to like a bright brass that they used to be. But yeah, that's really all there is to say for this one. And now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, now as for the fan that's in the bathroom of my grandfather's old bedroom, I did swap it out with a different socket fan. Nothing was wrong with the other one, it still worked fine. It's just I saw this in the store and I figured since it was basically the exact same price of what I paid for the other one, that I'd upgrade, and I upgraded to this because I actually was able to test it and feel the reads for it, and I gotta say, this one has a remote and such, 3 speeds, light dimming features, basically same thing as the other one, but much more powerful. The other one I feel would be better suited for like a closet or maybe like a front porch, or it's very tiny. But this definitely cranks a lot of air out. If not, it might be more powerful than the Bell and Howell fans, but I'd have to test them side by side really to determine it, to be honest. But it's basically that powerful. And the best part is this thing cost me under $20. It might have been like maybe 10, like maybe like around $14, $15, I think. It could have been around that, but it was under 20, I know that much. But yeah, and I'd rather pay that kind of money for a light bulb that has a motor with blades versus paying $50 for something that you can basically use to get a ceiling fan or a used ceiling fan. But it does a lot better job. People like it. They've been asking me where they sell because they want to buy one. So, yeah. The other one I'm holding on to, I might bring it back to the States to use somewhere, or I might relocate it here. I think I might bring it back to the States in all honesty, because I definitely think I can get more use out of it there compared to, because the thing is that when you turn it on, it doesn't stay in the last setting you left it on and such, whereas this one, if I shut it off on the last setting I had it on, it will turn back on like that, and that's something I think is more useful down here, since some people might not know how to use the remote on the other one, so yeah. But yeah, that's all there is really to say about this, and let me go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, now as for the ceiling fans up front, there's quite a bit of an update to discuss about them. Now, this one has a few updates that I wanted to discuss, and that is that the blades are starting to rust up a bit again. It's only been a year since I've repainted them, or maybe, I think I painted these back in late December of the previous year, or in February. Or it could have been like when I came in spring break last. I can't remember exactly. I had to go back and check when was the video posted and stuff, but yeah, they're starting to rust up again, and they're rusting up a little bit quicker than the one in my bedroom, which was painted 2 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, I want to say now. So, yeah, you can kind of see like the part, it's not as shiny looking. And I did sand them down. I didn't strip the paint completely because I wanted to leave the factory paint on it, since that's powder coated on it. It's not just spray paint, but it was gonna rust again either way, so there was really no point in my sense of looking at it in terms of like just stripping it down to repaint, because powder coating definitely will hold up a lot better over time and such. And there's some areas that are starting to peel a bit, like bubble up and such. This fan was actually pretty dirty when I arrived here. It's since been cleaned. So there's some grease marks, it looks like, but yeah, it's just starting to get a bit more worn out, basically. Yeah, you can kind of see it better here. But yeah. So the blades are starting to get a bit more worn out. I've been debating if maybe swapping them or the whole fan itself, like I've discussed in the past. The other thing is this light kit. It's kind of more shaky than it used to be. It's kind of like the one that's in my grandmother's bedroom, but third thing is that this fan is running a bit slower now compared to the other three at times. The other three gated Ks, that is. This was the fastest one because the capacitor on this is actually rated for 7 US and the other two are rated for 6 UF for some odd reason. Though they both basically go about the same speed, or they all do, but basically this one sometimes will go quite a bit slower than the other ones. Like if I put it on speed 4, speed 5, sometimes it'll feel like it's going like a whole entire speed slower or speed and a half slower. Right now it's not doing that. And sometimes the light kit shakes a bit more. The glass isn't loose. The light bulb socket inside isn't loose. Right now it's working well, but I'm wondering if it's the control, the speed control, that's starting to get worn out, capacitor wise. But yeah, that's the sound I've been talking about with the light. So yeah, it's been kind of doing the same thing the other one did. It's been shaking like this for a bit, but now it's starting to make a sound with it. And it seems to be coming from the center. Like even the light is tapped. Like even when I had this, I took off the glass and I checked to see. Slow it down. I just don't want to hit the blades, just so I can keep them in alignment as best as I can. But even like a light tap, like a poke, will constantly do that. What I'm thinking is it might be like the center, like where it's mounted and tightened, that the center of it might be getting loose over time, or weakened, like more bent. Because for those who don't remember, this used to be controlled by the light chain right here. That's the only way to turn it on and off, because for a while it couldn't be controlled from the light switch right there. It was disconnected when they first installed it back in late 2008. So for a while they would rely on the light chain, and that would bend it a lot, like that. It would be most of the time when I'd arrive. So that's when I decided to take this off after, because I didn't want them to bend it so much that it would damage the center of it. And I'm wondering if that's what it is, that over time it's starting to get weakened. But yeah, it's been doing that a bit. It's not that the light kit will fall down. It's definitely tight still. It's just, I don't know if the metal frame of it in the center of like where you twist it into place is getting weaker. But it could be a possibility. So yeah, but it's been, other than that, it's been doing all right, but it is starting to show some more wear and tear with the light kit and such. And the speed sometimes not working properly. So I'm thinking it's more of a control issue, not the fan, because since the fan does work well sometimes on each speed, that's telling me it's more so the control. because the one in my room sometimes will have that issue, like with speed 4 and speed 3, where the speed 4 will stay on speed 3 basically. If I move it from speed 5 to speed 4, it will go to speed 3. So it seems to be more of an issue of the control. And this control is older than the fan itself, because this is the one that's from the one in my grandmother's room, which is a few years older than this. So I'm thinking it's more the control. But now as for the living room fan, still works the same and such, but the finish is definitely starting to get more worn out compared to when I was last year. It's starting to rust up a lot more and such. And I've been thinking of swapping this one out with a KDK N56YG. Same thing with that one. I've been thinking of doing that with it as well. But I'm thinking if I'm gonna swap it, instead of the one in my grandmother's room being this first one, I was thinking maybe I might make this be the first one to get replaced, just because it's getting more worn out, the brass on it and such. I mean, the top is definitely very rusted. Like the brass is almost gone on the top, and it's definitely starting to come towards the bottom, like the sides of it and such. And since this is a brass fan, there's not very much you can do to save the finish, and I already know that, but I just don't want to get to the point where there's no brass left and it's just completely covered in rust. So yeah, that's what I've been doing with this one. And like I mentioned before, a portion of the blade started to chip away and such. But I mean, the fan's 28 years old, same age as me. And this was a display model at the furniture store for many years, right up front. Exposed to all the moisture from the street and stuff when it would rain and such. And it was up in the attic area for a while. So that's also the same thing with this one. And it's also in the front, the living room, where the windows are open a lot. And when it rains, it is the closest fan to get the most moisture and humidity to hit it and such. So. And since it's not an outdoor rated fan, obviously the finish is not going to survive too well down here, but over time, I mean, there's some locations, like if you have it installed in an area where it's not so much ventilation from outside getting inside and such, but that's definitely not the case with this one, since it's right in the front. But at the front, when you walk in to the house, you don't really notice it, but it's more when you're seeing it from over here. You can see that's starting to come down a bit. And when you're over on this side, that you can see it rusting more. But what I'm thinking of doing to try to preserve it a little bit longer is sanding down the rusted areas a little bit and clear coating the fan to preserve the finish as much as I can. That way it's not going to be a complete rust bucket where there's more rust on it than actual brass finish and such. But that's really all there is to say with this one. Again, it doesn't get used that much, but I just don't want to see it get more worn out to the point where the brass you can't really see anymore, and there's more of a rusted finish on it compared to the antique brass. So that's really the update with this one in the dining room. And now let me go ahead and move on to the last one. All right, last but not least, the small home star. In the kitchen, not really much has changed with it. We've only had it here for a year, but I'm not sure if that's starting to get a bit faded and such, but it could be. But, the blades somehow have been cleaned completely, something that I wasn't able to do with it. Whereas when I got it, it was being used briefly in the store, so it might have been used there from the place I got it at, which was why it was a little bit dirty when I got it. But even when I tried to clean it, it was kind of stuck to it. But somebody must have got it finally. So yeah, and it's not covered in grease. It's not really sticky at all like it was last time. It seems to be working better than it was before. The bearings seem more loose on it. I mean, before I know the one that was here before, I could feel it from the dining room. And this one, not as much. Like, I know the other one was definitely a little bit stronger, and this one, I mean, the other one's been gone for a few years now, but this one definitely seems to be performing better than it used to. But something I've been debating, I keep forgetting to do is bring some Zoom Spouter 3-in-1 the blue motor oil and stuff, just to try to loosen this up a little bit. But it's a cheap fan, and they only use it occasionally. And as long as the motor's not stiff, it's fine. So yeah, and they only really use it just to keep the kitchen a bit cool when they're cooking, just so it's not too hot in here, and just to circulate some air in here. So it really doesn't get that much use, but I mean, compared to the other ones, but like out of all the Pedestal fans, except for the one in my bedroom. Yeah, so it's working well, and that's good, and it's nice to see that they're taking care of it and keeping it clean instead of it being covered in grease. So there's also that, but yeah, there's not too much really to say about it other than that it's still here, it's working fine, and yeah. So yeah, now let me go ahead and wrap up the video and cut it here, and then I'll pick it up in my room and end the video. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos to come.